In this demonstration from our series of ADO and Code, we are going to read data from a database. So I'm going to start Microsoft Visual Studio. I'll create a brand new project. The Windows Forms application. Call it Customer Data. Click OK. I'm going to jump right into the creation of a global module. My only purpose behind this global module is for the connection string to our database. So I'll right-click on our project, Add Module. You won't be able to see that on your screen, but I'm selecting Module. Call it MDL Global. And within here, I'm just going to create a public string called strConnection as string. And I'll give it a value right now. So provider equals Microsoft.ace.oledb.12.0 semicolon. We'll do a continuation onto our next line here, just for readability. Data source equals calls.accdb, which is the name of the database we've already created. And we don't have any security information on it. Persist security info equals false. Oh, we need a semicolon at the end there. Okay, what that's going to do is it's going to enable us to access our database. I'll throw some inline documentation here. Public string for database connection. I'm going to save this. There we go. And then next I'm going to create a class data. What this is going to do is enable me to reuse my code that just accesses the database and enables me to modify my database. So I'm going to right click, add, and class. Call it CLS data. And first I'm going to have to import the library from Visual Studio, import system.data.oledb. So that enables me to actually access my data. I'll give it some documentation. This class connects to the database and gathers info based on connection strings and SQL statements passed to it. Alright, within here I need some just variables. So dim conn as new OLEDB connection. So that's how I establish my connection. I need to declare a SQL string, so I can actually give my SQL commands to it. So dim str SQL as string. I'm going to public my data adapter, so public DA as OLEDB data adapter. Public DS as new data set. And those at least cover my variables. What we have here is my connection to the database, my SQL command that actually accesses the data, my data adapter that converts from my database code to my Visual Basic code, and then my data set, which is a snapshot of the data that I can view and or modify. We'll add comments to this later. I'm going to create some properties that can be modified from outside of this class. So here, public property connection string as string. We'll get and return, so get And when they ask for it, it's going to return connection, or conn.connection string, and we'll pass it as a string. When we set our value, conn.connection string equals the value that we give to it. Our next one is going to be our SQL statement. So public property SQL as string. We do our get and set. So get, and it's going to return str SQL, which we've already created above. And for our set, it's going to be str SQL equals the value that's passed to it. Okay, now we're going to set our data adapter. So this is when we are actually going to make the connection and access the data. So here, private sub set data adapter. And we're just going to validate. Did they actually pass a SQL statement to it? So if it equals nothing, or does not equal nothing, and make sure that they actually have a connection string. So as long as both of those are in, we'll set our data adapter to a new data adapter, passing to it our SQL command and our connection. We'll create our new data set, or new instance of, and then we're going to fill it. So da.fill and data set. Okay, so we've got our sub procedure that's going to do this. I'm going to automatically call this sub procedure. So as soon as they fill the public property of SQL, I'm going to call set data adapter. So by default, it's going to do it. So they're going to pass to it a connection string, pass to it the SQL, and it'll automatically grab the data. Alright, the only thing that I have left is to add my documentation to this application. So for our connection, simply connection to database. Our SQL string, string to store SQL statement. Our DA, or our data adapter, so that's data adapter. And I'll even help here. We'll put converts from database to VB code. We'll go to our data set. And what that is a snapshot of database or query. If I can type correctly here. Okay. I'll go down to our public property for connection string. And this is the property to set and view our connection string. We pass a value to it. It's a string passed from calling procedure. And it returns connection string as string. Our SQL command. For that one, property to set or view SQL command. It's getting passed to it SQL as string, and it's returning SQL statement as string. Our data adapter, or I'm sorry, this is for our sub procedure. So if connection and SQL are established, fill dataset after connecting to database. And that should document our class. So now we have a class that is able to connect to the database and gather data. I'll go to my form, which is Form1 Design, and I'm going to rename it just Form Customer Data.vb. And I'll even give it a new text value. I'm going to display the customer data in a list box. So there we go. LST customer. And that'll be enough for now. We'll go into our code view. And hopefully to make things simple, I'm going to create a structure. So structure customer info. And within here, I'll create public LNG customer ID is long. So that's going to store the customer ID. Public str first name as string. Public str last name as string. Public str telephone as string. And public str email as string. So I'm able to store all the information that is needed for our database. Next, I'm going to declare an empty array that can store this information. So dim contact sub -1, so it's empty, as customer info. Alright, I'm going to create a sub procedure. So private sub load customer information. And what this is going to do is it's going to use the class that we've already created, so dim customer data, as new CLS data. We're going to pass to it the connection string, so customer data dot connection string, and we already have this stored in mdl-global.str connection. So we have that piece of the puzzle. Next, we need to pass to it the SQL command. So customer data.sql equals, and select, we had ID, last name, first name, telephone, email from TBL contacts. I'll go at the end here, do a string continuation so you can see what I'm doing. I'll give it a where, or I'm sorry, where we don't need, but it'll be order by last name, comma, first name. Now that that's done, we know that our class has already gone through. We passed it the SQL, so we know it set the data adapter and it filled our connection. The key to this, though, is that we need to move our database. So I'm going to copy our calls database and put it in the bin debug folder. The reason why I need to do that is because our MDL Global STR connection is expecting it to be in the same folder as our application. We can give this any path that we want. So if we want it on our C drive or wherever we like, we can give it that connection right here. I'll go back to my form, and now I'm going to loop through the data that this has given me. So for I as integer equals 0 to customer data .ds.tables sub 0, since we're using the first table, .rows.count -1. The reason why we're doing the -1 is because count is 1 based and the rows are 0 based, as is everything within VB. I'm going to redeclare the length of the structure, or the array of the structure. So redim preserve contact sub contact dot length. There we go. Getting a little fat finger there. And then with contact sub contact.length -1, now I can go through and actually start filling my structure. So .lng customer ID equals, and we're going to have a lot of typing here though, but customer data.ds, our data set, tables sub-0, .rows, we're going to refer to the row that we're on, so we're going to refer to I right here, .item, and this is going to refer to the field in the database, .toString. Alright, there's a lot that we can copy here. So I'm going to copy everything after my equal sign. So now next is .str last name equals, and all I need to do is change my field from ID to last name. Same thing for first name. Whoops. Telephone. And email. Alright, so it's going to loop through each field. So now we should have our data collected from the database. We need to display this to our list box. So I'm just going to add list customer .items.add, and I'll go with .str last name, so I'm going to refer to my structure, do a little bit of string concatenation for formatting, and first name. Alright, I need something to call this event. I'll just do this on form load for now, so call load customer information and run it. We have now connected to the database. Next thing that I want to see is when we double click on a customer that their telephone number appears. So double click on my list box. I don't want selected index changed. I actually want the double click event. And here the first thing I need to validate is if list customer dot selected index is greater than -1. So did they actually click on something? If so, message box dot show will display the customer's name. Actually, might as well use a with here real quick. So with contact sub lst customer dot selected index. Thank you, IntelliSense, for helping me out. Alright, now dot, we'll go first name, do a little bit of string concatenation, last name, do a carriage return, and email. Alright, let's see if that works. We'll run it. Double click on a person, and it's giving us their information. The only thing left is to do some documentation here. So I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm going to declare empty array of customer info. My structure is structure to hold basic contact information. I'm going to put in the remarks, this will be implemented in an array. Just as a reminder to myself. For private sub, load customer information. Load customer information to structure using CLS data. So we know that we're using our class there. And I'll even go a little bit further here. Declare instance of class, pass connection string from global module, pass SQL command. This triggers data fill in class object. Then we're going to loop through each record, store in structure. Whoops. If I can spell. And we're going to display names in list box. At our double click, when user double clicks on customer, display customer name and email. Our sender is list customer. Double click. Whoops, and we still need our form load. And here, load customer information to program and screen. Very good. I'll make sure I save, and that concludes reading information from a database to a VB application.